Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So, as promised, I'm bringing you guys a updated version of my Red Dragon Archfiend deck. This is actually my competitive build, and yeah, I've been taking some time to, dabble with like different variations of the strategy. I did try out the Duskwalker build where you play Supe Duskwalker and a copy of Supe, which is pretty good too. But the one the one I decided to lean towards the most is the Bestial version. And the reason for that is that tier limits is now like back now that Arise Heart is banned. And with the Bestial package, like it's just good for disruption. But not only that, the monsters are primarily level 6s, which is useful considering that we do go into a lot of high-level boss monsters. So I figured, what, let's try the Bestials, and yeah, I really like what the deck can do now. So I figured I'd share with you guys what I came up with, and let's get started. So my main deck is actually 44 cards. I tried to keep it at 40, but it was just kind of impossible, funny enough. But overall, like, I still have a lot of consistency with this deck, and honestly, I just can't complain. But starting off with 3 copies of Soul Resonator. This is your main opener. This card is normal or special summon. You can add any one level 4 or lower Fiend monster. Of course, this does lock you into summoning Dark Synchro monsters from your extra deck, which is no problem considering that is literally the whole extra deck. But I also like the fact that, yeah, this card is just really great for the strategy. If a card you control would be destroyed by card effect while you control a Red Dragon Archfiend or a Synchro monster that mentions it, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So it also adds, protection and all that. Next up, 3 copies of Crimson Resonator, probably your second best Resonator monster. If you control no monsters, this card is literally free to special summon, so it's like Cyber Dragon essentially. But if you control exactly 1 Dark Dragon Synchro monster, you can special summon up to 2 Resonator monsters from your hand or your deck, except itself. And keep in mind, they do not have to be different names. It just can't be another copy of Crimson. But yeah, this card is absurd. And yeah, I just really love what it can really do for the deck. Next up, 2 copies of Vision Resonator. Another great card, another great new support card. If this card is sent to the graveyard, and it can be from anywhere, by the way, you can just add any spell or trap that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend from your deck to your hand. So a great way to get Crimson Gaia, or if you want to go a little extra crazy like I am, I'm playing an Absolute Power Force in the deck as just another target. But I also like the fact that it's also an extender. So if you control a if a level 5 or higher dark monster is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. And keep in mind, just this has to be on the field, so it doesn't have to be one you control. If your opponent happens to control one, then hey, you're all set. To round up our Resonator monsters, I'm playing 2 copies of Synchron Resonator. I know some people like to play Chain Resonator. I was actually considering that too, but I think Synchron is the better one, simply because like if it's sent to the graveyard, and this is not once per turn, by the way. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Resonator monster except itself, add it back to your hand. The only thing that is once per turn is this special summoning effect, where if you control a Synchro monster, or if a Synchro monster is on the field, you can special summon this card. And that's just about it. But overall, yeah, Synchron Resonator, a great card overall. And plus, you kind of need 2 of them for your Red Rising Dragon's graveyard effect, as it's just, good for follow-up and all that. So that's the whole reason behind it. Alright, so yeah, that rounds up our Resonator engine. Moving on to our other engines. I'm playing 3 copies of the new Bone Archfiend. Really wish this was a super rare. Maybe in the next OTS pack we'll get lucky. But if this card is in your hand or your graveyard, you can send 1 other card in your hand or your field to the graveyard, special summon this card. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except for Dark Dragon Synchro monsters, which again, not a problem. You can target 1 face-up monster you control that has a level, send a Fiend Tuna from your hand or your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, increase or decrease that monster's level by 1. So a great way for level modulation. So like one of the general combos is that you normal summon this, search this out if you don't have one already, pitch a card, and then you'll mostly want to send Vision Resonator to the graveyard, and yeah, reduce its level by 1. Actually, no, take that back, not Vision Resonator. You'll send Crimson Resonator instead. And then from there, you go into your Red Rising Dragon, special summon back the Crimson. And then, yeah, it's full combo right there. But moving on, playing 1 copy of Wandering King Wildwind. This card is searchable because, again, Vision Resonator searches any level 4 or lower Fiend monster. And I'm surprised this thing is even a Fiend at all, but, it is what it is. And another great extender piece, 1 Obsessive Uvia Loop. It's also a tuner monster, which is nice. If this card is in your hand, you can target 1 Synchro monster you control or in your graveyard, banish it, and if you do, special summon this card. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 Synchro monster you control or in your graveyard, banish it, and if you do, add this card back to your hand. So yeah, great way for just like extra utility. And one thing about Wild King is that, or Wild Wind, I'm sorry, if you control a Fiend Tuner with 1500 or less attack, you can special summon it. And also, except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and add any one Fiend Tuner monster with 1500 or less attack, and just about every single one of them is searchable. So yeah, like they're just really good for cycling each other out. But overall, yeah, that pretty much rounds up our Fiend engine. All right, so now we're moving on to the main ones, the Bestials. I'm playing 2 copies of the Bestial Rebellion. I was thinking of playing at 3, but it kind of got a little bricky, so I was like, you know what, let's just play 2. And yeah, and play only the best one. So yeah, you pitch this card to search out any Bestial monster you want, and then you contribute 1 Dark Dragon monster, special summon this card, and then from there you can place 1 branded continuous spell or trap from your deck, and put it face up on the field. So great way to get to Branded Regain, Branded Beast, Etude of the Branded, whatever you want, really. Next up, 2 copies of Jerusalem, probably the new best Bestial monster now that Magnamut is at 1. But yeah, this card is sent to the graveyard. You can target 1 card on the field, send it to the grave. So yeah, great way just to get rid of monsters, really. So yeah, moving on. 1 copy of Bestial Magnamut, and 1 copy of Saronir. Saronir is pretty good because it's essentially Foolish Burial for your Bestial monsters, and you definitely want to take advantage of that. But yeah, these are basically also hand traps in their own right, which is really neat. Speaking of hand traps, I'm playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom, you know, still really good right now. 3 Imperm, and yeah, that's just about it. Didn't want to play Droll and Lockbird because, like, it might still see some main deck play, but I think it'll be better off in the side now that, you know, because of the recent hits, especially with Dragon Link. I mean, Dragon Link is still very much playable, but, you know, it's like you have to, Droll and Lockbird is kind of neat. It's like, has to be for the right matchup, and some decks right now can easily play around it. Like Pearly, they can play around Droll and Lockbird very easily because they can activate all their cards in the draw phase and so forth. But anyway, moving on to the spells. Playing 3 copies of Resonator Call. I'm actually expecting 1 more Ultra in the mail. I was only able to find 2 in my bulk, sadly. 3 Crimson Gaia. Searches any, well, you can add a Red Dragon Archfiend or 1 card that mentions it from your deck to your grave back to your hand, except itself. And when your Red Dragon Archfiend declares an attack, you can change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense mode. If a monster on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Red Dragon Archfiend from your graveyard. So this card actually does a lot for you, so that's one of the cool things about it. 2 copies of Prosperity. I was playing this at 3 originally, but there were times I kind of bricked with it, or when I do resolve it, like I just see another Pot of Prosperity, and it kind of got a little meh at that point. So I was like, you know what, let's just play 2. And plus, most of the time when I do activate this card, you only activate 1, and the others just become dead. So that's my whole logic behind it. And the most you're going to banish off of this is going to be 3. There have been very rare occasions where I've actually banished 6 for cost, and that's only if my hand was just that bad or something. But yeah, usually you're just going to banish 3, and you should be able to find something you do need. So yeah, I think 2 Prosperity is the correct number. Like 3, it's just like 1 too many. Again, that's just my logic. Next, 2 copies of Triple T, just a good counteractive card if like cards like Prosperity don't resolve, or if my Crimson Gaia gets ashed. And yeah, like Triple T just to help me draw more cards, or if I need to take control of an opponent's monster so I can go to my Synchro plays, that definitely works too. 1 Call-By, 1 Foolish Burial, and as I mentioned, I am playing the 1 Absolute Power Force. It's just an additional searchable target for my Vision Resonator if I already have access to Crimson Gaia in my hand. So yeah, it's just it's really good. To go along with our branded our Bestial package, I'm sorry, playing 1 Branded Regained, you know, just to help me draw more cards. 1 Branded Beast, 1 Etude of the Branded, and our last searchable target for our Vision Resonator or Crimson Gaia. Actually, yeah, just Vision Resonator, really. 1 Red Zone. And yeah, just a good way. These are just great for disruption, especially Etude of the Branded, because like you essentially get to Synchro Summon during your opponent's turn, and it's a one-sided macro if they use their monsters as material for a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or a Link Summon. So yeah, Etude of the Branded, it's pretty nuts. All right, so for the extra deck, by now everyone should already know what the standard is for this, but playing 3 copies of Red Rising Dragon. This is the one you want to play at 3 simply because of the fact that it's not a hard once per turn. When this card is Synchro Summon, you can target 1 Resonator monster in your grave, special summon it, and you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Dark Dragon Synchro. Again, not a problem. During your main phase, except the turn this was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard, special summon 2 level 1 Resonator monsters, and this is why I play Synchro on Resonator. Next, 2 copies of Scarred Dragon Archfiend. So super easy to make. If this card becomes Red Dragon Archfiend while on the field or in the grave. If this card is sent from the monster zone to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Red Dragon Archfiend from your extra deck, and this is treated as a synchro summon. And if this card was sent to the graveyard as synchro material for a Dark Dragon synchro monster, you can destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls. So yeah, this card is pretty nuts. And again, you mostly just need it to go into the original Red Dragon Archfiend. And yeah, I do have the Mega 10 secrets, which are really nice. One Kubel, the Blade Dragon. This is just good for, just to destroy a monster on the field. Actually, it destroys any card, really. So yeah, just a great way to, just remove cards. And it's a level 7, so, because sometimes you might be in an instance where, the levels might be a little awkward, but now that we have this card, yeah, going to a level 7 is now ridiculously easy. One Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend if I need to help close out games a little faster by just, nuking all special summon monsters on the field and burn my opponent for damage, so yeah. And it's huge, too, so that's pretty nice. And what's also cool about this card is that it also becomes Red Dragon Archfiend while on the field or in the graveyard, so yeah, Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, definitely a must. Playing one Abyss, for disruption. And also, it helps you play around Dark Ruler no more. So, if your opponent plays Dark Ruler no more, you can chain Red Zone, for example, and then chain to Red Zone with Abyss's effect to negate the effects of your opponent's Dark Ruler no more. Next up, one Bane. Bane's also incredibly good because it special summons back your own monsters by tributing something. Now, I know a lot of people aren't playing this in their extra deck, but I like to play it because it's just funny. I'm playing one copy of Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend. This is actually the only one that was not reprinted in the structure deck, and thankfully I had one stashed up in my bulk somewhere. Requires 2 tuners and a non-tuner, so relatively easy to make. But I also like the fact that it's a board nuke. It nukes everything on the field except itself, and also during the battle phase, it can negate a spell or trap card that's activated. So it's a great way to kind of dodge evenly matched. So yeah, Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend, not too bad. I mean, yeah, some people might choose to play Void Ogre Dragon instead, but give Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend a go if you want to try it out, see how it plays, and yeah, you can always change it out for something else if you don't like it. I'm just playing it because again, it's pretty funny. I like to throw my opponent for a loop, and yeah, it's pretty funny to just resolve this. One Bestial Dispatter. Thankfully, this came quicker than I was expecting, so yeah, definitely a great way to not only negate but also pop cards as long as you have banished cards to use. And yeah, Dispatter, an excellent card to make, and it also helps the fact that it's a dragon monster. One Red Supernova Dragon, another way to nuke the board if your opponent activates a monster effect. And yeah, it's pretty good. It also gains 500 attack points for every tuner that's in your graveyard. So yeah, this sucker gets huge. I've actually managed to make this a couple times, and he went up to almost 6,500 to almost 7,000 attack points. So yeah, you'd be surprised just how big this guy gets. Now, of course, it does require 3 tuners to make this, so it's a little tricky to make. So just bear that in mind. And finally, one Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, which you could definitely make this off of Etude of the Branded if you have the tuners to support it. But if not, you can always go into something else. Usually I always go into Bestial Dispatter, but again, if I don't do that, sometimes I'll make that on my first turn anyway. So it really depends on which direction you're going to go on your turn, essentially. All right, so now moving on to the side deck. For my side deck, playing 2 Droll, as I mentioned, it's good against specific matchups, but sometimes it's not. Again, Pearly, they can play around this pretty easily. And Tearlament, since they dump everything, yeah, it's going to be kind of rough. Excuse me. 2 Nib. Since my deck is kind of vulnerable to this card too, I do play Crossout Designator in case if I need to. 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone and a Harpy's Feather Duster. 3 evenly matched, just to deal with mostly back row heavy decks. And finally, 3 copies of D-Barrier. This is primarily for Pearly or Branded, because Branded play fusions. Tearlaments, it's kind of tricky because they play just about everything. But usually when I use this against Tearlament, I'm mostly going to either call Fusion or Exceed. Most likely Exceed because they get a lot of value off of that. But yeah, you got to know what to hit really. Against Kashtira, Kashtira lost to Rise Heart, but the deck is also pretty playable, so you want to call Exceed as well. And yeah, again, D-Barrier, it's got a lot of flexibility this format. But anyway, that's pretty much it. So hope you guys enjoy this, and I will catch you guys again next time.